let's get to the Taylor Swift of socialism, Zohran Kwame Mamdani. Right as Hype Train is incoming, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to carry the flame today of all days on this beautiful Friday, July 3rd, then all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime or by gifting subs. Okay. Let's take a look at what Zohran Kwame Mamdani had to say. He is delivering a July 4th speech before the 4th of July. $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Sorry.
Good morning, my fellow Americans. Season after season, year after year, the tides have come in and out of New York Harbor. Long before the name New York had ever been spoken, Lenape dugouts crossed these currents. It was on these waters that tall masts crested the horizon.
Damn. Lenape mentioned. He did the Boys, Girls, and MBs coming to you live from New York City, New York on stolen Lenape land.
Captained by explorers like Verrazano and Hudson, after whom we've named our bridges and rivers. And ever since, ships full of travelers weary from long journeys have passed through the Narrows, the winds of the Atlantic at their backs. When those passengers lifted their heads to glimpse what lies just beyond the waves, what did they see? They saw land, lush and teeming with life. They saw men waiting at the docks to take them into bondage. They saw tenements rife with squalor. They saw industry rumbling with activity, steam and smoke rising, a city on the move. They saw a towering monument to freedom, her torch glowing worldwide welcome. They saw New York City. They saw America. Tomorrow, our nation marks 250 years since we declared our independence. 250 years of a grand experiment in self-governance, an experiment so audacious that some in 1776 doubted it would last more than a few years, let alone a quarter of a millennium. From Lexington to Los Angeles, Selma to Seneca Falls, Morrisania to Midwood, Americans will come together for a day, just as we do each year. Families will gather around the grill. Fireworks will fill the night sky. This will be no ordinary day of celebration. 250 years presents a rare opportunity for more than 340 million people to turn together, both towards one another and towards ourselves, to take measure of who we are as a nation. When we look at America, what do we see? Here at City Hall, as I sit behind George Washington's desk, alongside new Americans who came to this country, I cannot see all of America. But like so many who came before, I can see New York City. The city I see today looks very different than the one that greeted George Washington. In July of 1776, our city simmered under the yoke of oppression. The British had imposed a colonial rule so repressive that 250 years ago, 80 miles south, a small group of newspaper editors, farmers, and soldiers signed their names on a document declaring truths that feel self-evident now.
Yeah, the desk is backwards, Chad. That's on purpose.
But were revolutionary then, establishing the ideals our nation still strives to fulfill. The British did not take it well.
He's sitting on the wrong side of the desk on purpose.
Well, war broke out. And that August, as the largest battle of the Revolutionary War unfolded in Brooklyn, batteries on Governor's Island took aim at British ships anchored just offshore. We were outgunned, we were outmanned, and we were soundly defeated.
We're the mayor now.
After only a few months, it appeared our fledgling attempt at democracy was on the precipice of collapse. But that night, with the moon overhead, thousands of our soldiers silently climbed into ferries and flat-bottom boats and escaped to Manhattan. The Continental Army survived to fight another day. Independence may have been declared in Philadelphia, but it was rescued in New York City.
Bro, this guy always got to bring New York City into it, okay? Always. This guy always got to be like, listen, yeah, sure, they signed it in Philly. They should have signed it in New York, honestly. And New York City is the one that actually did all the legwork. You know what I mean?
George Washington was the last to leave Brooklyn. As he waited at the river's edge, the sun beginning its rise, he would have looked out over New York City's waters and seen what so many have seen in the 250 years since. an opportunity to begin anew. Those opportunities, like everything in New York City, are not given. They are won. In 1838, 11 years after New York outlawed slavery, a recently emancipated black man by the name of James Weeks sought to begin anew as well, and to help hundreds of others do the same. He bought property in Brooklyn, won himself the right to vote, and sold lots to others newly freed. When they landed in New York Harbor, they knew they had something waiting for them that they had never had before: a home. Weeksville still stands today, a living, breathing testament to what we know America to be, a place each of us has the power to make. The harbor was busy those years as ships poured in from around the world. Hundreds of thousands of Irish immigrants arrived with stomachs aching from a famine manufactured by imperial cruelty. Chinese sailors settled in what is today Chinatown. Millions more traveled under the Statue of Liberty and through Ellis Island. Jewish people escaping pogroms, Italians fleeing poverty, Syrians seeking economic opportunity. Each of these new arrivals peered through portholes onto a city that was changing as fast as the nation. They saw merchants peddling their wares on the docks, streets being laid out on a grid, buildings rising into the clouds. They could not yet see the nativism they would face, the jobs they would be refused, the landlords who would not rent to them, and the abject labor and living conditions they would withstand. But no matter how much smog hung over the harbor, they still saw an opportunity to begin anew. Over the years that followed, despite laws enacted by the federal government to bar their entry, despite sweatshop fires that killed hundreds of women, despite riots aimed at their very existence, immigrants made homes here in New York City, and they helped to make New York City. That legacy of every generation of Americans insisting that the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness extends to them too, is no relic of the past. It carried millions of black Americans north during the Great Migration. It drew hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans to New York City after the Second World War. It invited countless others from the West Indies and South Asia and West Africa and across the world. And it is what brought my family to this city when I was 7 years old. My family did not arrive by boat, although we saw the Statue of Liberty from the window of the plane. Even from the air, we could make out the promise of America, the promise of the beautiful patriotic work of rendering America, year after year, a little more faithful to its founding ideals. There is a term so often used to describe our nation and those who have shaped it: American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism, the conventional wisdom tells us, makes our freedom a little more free, is how we dug the Erie Canal and irrigated the West, is why children in faraway lands grow up dreaming of one day moving here. And yet the irony is that the story of America has so often been written by those who were told by others with power and influence and wealth that they were anything but exceptional. For generation after generation, we have been told that when the world has sent its people to our shores, it has not sent its best. It sent Puritans and Sikhs and Quakers and Muslims.
This is great. There is a long tradition. New York Times actually covered this extensively as well. Every year, if you're a Democracy Now! Enjoyer, you probably hear, what's his name, James Earl Jones, do the People's History of the United States as a part of the People's History of the United States, like theatrical release, a reading of Frederick Douglass's What's 4th of July to a Slave. I'm butchering everything here, but every year they do this. They do this reading of Frederick Douglass's famous speech that he delivered to a group of abolitionist women about what 4th of July means for Black Americans, right? It's delivered by James Earl Jones, rest in peace. And there is a long, time-honored tradition of what 4th of July means to those who are dispossessed, those who are oppressed, who have been oppressed historically by America. What does the revolutionary actions of the founding fathers mean, and you know, what can we do to carry on to carry on that same revolution? Is not complete yet for everyone, right? True emancipation, true liberation for all. What to the slave is the 4th of July is the speech delivered by Frederick Douglass on July 5th, 1852 at Corinthian Hall in Rochester, New York, at a meeting organized by the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society. Okay? Democracy Now! Plays it every year. I listened to it this morning again, as is tradition. We will play it later. But getting back to Zohran, he is also basically doing a similar thing. Talking about 4th of July, talking about the redeemable aspects of America, being, of course, open-minded to migration patterns, being open-minded to immigrants, or at least like getting through the friction and becoming a place that immigrants call home. Immigrants like Zohran Mamdani himself.
Jewish people who were banished for praying the wrong way, worshiping the wrong gods, angering the wrong.
Stop talking about immigrants like they're
people.
flocks of birds. What the fuck, dog? Really? You're saying that to me of all people? What are we talking about at this point? Jesus Christ. What's next, dude? Am I being Islamophobic when I talk about Islam? When I talk about Muslims? Is that what you're going to say next?
Sent peasants and serfs from slums and shtetls who were treated as less because they hardly owned clothes, let alone land. It sent immigrants from whom power was something someone else had. We are told that America is exceptional because we are richer, stronger, more powerful than everyone else. The truth, my friends, is that America is exceptional because here, nothing is fixed into place. The frontier may be closed, we may have walked on the moon, but the work of fulfilling the values first enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, that work endures, and it belongs to us all. It belongs too to our newest Americans, those standing here with me today, all of whom were recently naturalized. Nearly a decade ago, I too felt what you feel, the joy of no longer being just a New Yorker, but an American too. You each hold a special power, the power to determine what America means. The powerful have always known their answer. America, in their view, is an arena of supremacy, where only a select few are allowed freedom, where not all are created equal. America, if you ask them, becomes less the more people it welcomes. America, they will tell you, belongs only to those with the right accent or the right shade of skin. The rest of us, they insist, should be grateful for merely being allowed to visit. How small they are, how weak,
Soupy,
how
thank you for the
unoriginal.
50 gift
At
of
every
subs.
moment in our past, those who led through exclusion and isolation have tried to win power and enrich themselves by turning us against one another. Division is the oldest trick in politics and the cheapest. But time and again, including 250 years ago, those forces of division have been vanquished by the forces of progress. As Thomas Paine once wrote, "This new world hath been the asylum for the persecuted lovers of civil and religious liberty. Hither have they fled." And yet today, too many of our leaders do not believe in a vision of this nation as an asylum for the persecuted, but rather as one that persecutes those seeking asylum. As we mark 250 years, what do we see? We see a city of contradictions within a nation of contradictions. We see the wealthiest country in the history of the world, one where children go to sleep hungry while the world's first trillionaire hungers for more. We see monopolies that dominate every industry and oligarchs who buy elections. We see masked agents terrorizing our streets, eating food cooked by our undocumented neighbors before spiriting them away in unmarked vans. We see a nation whose immense wealth has been built by those with calloused, dirt-streaked hands, those who toil on factory floors and chisel into stone. And we see a nation that has allowed so much of that wealth to be held instead in the soft hands of a precious few. Yes, we see America in a health insurance industry that exploits the sick, but that is not all we see when we look for America. We see it too in the nurse who works a double shift and then stops on her way home to check on an ailing neighbor. Yes, we see America in corporate landlords for whom negligence is a business model. We see it too in the father who tucks his children into bed beneath a ceiling stained with leaks, who wakes before dawn to go to work and still believes his country can do better by his family. Yes, we see America when we spend our tax dollars on bombs and bailouts, when we sell our elections to the highest bidder. Yet we see it just as clearly in every American who still believes this country belongs to we, the people. We see America.
Dude, awesome. Like Zohran Mamdani, an immigrant, talking about the love he has for his city, talking about the contradictions and the redeemable aspects of America and the irredeemable aspects of America. And putting a lot of thought and effort into this. And of course, this moment has to be instantly ruined by weirdos. Hasan looking bloaty and gassy right now. You left your country. You chose to be here. That means you need to adapt to us. We do not need to adapt to you. Leave Tor region in the country you are trying to escape. Brother, the point is America has always been an unfathomably diverse nation, and it still is to this day. It is you who is incapable of adapting to the current conditions and the historic conditions that America has always represented, the promise of America. Okay? America simultaneously is a country that has maintained chattel slavery, conducted indigenous genocide at its inception, but it's also one that is the most diverse country on the planet. Okay? The problem is you want the irredeemable aspects of American history. You demand the irredeemable aspects of American history to be the only thing that is represented as a positive, and all of the wonderful aspects of America that makes America this tapestry, that makes America this diverse country, this dominant power in many respects, to be cast aside for some mythological understanding of ethnic purity. You've been taught that this concept of ethnic purity would actually bring about some kind of positive future for America. This type of person has existed for every wave of immigration. Some guy said this every other decade since the foundation of this country. No, exactly. The Irish come in and people say, oh, the Irish, I mean, they're Catholic. They can't integrate. They can't come into this country. This is our country. This is a nation of Protestants. We're of good WASP stock. How dare they try to come to this country? We have to do everything in our power to purge them. Nowadays, when you look back at that, the Irish have obviously assimilated so perfectly that they are a part of the in-group. This was said of the Italians. This was said of the Polish. It was said of the Jewish migrants. No matter what happens, every wave after wave, the people that were here always tried to create new hurdles for those that came in after them. At some point in time, it was said of your ancestors too, for the record, that they are incapable of integrating into society. And they brought their own culture, they brought their own cuisine, and that is what made America this diverse country. Okay? Yeah, an American mosaic. This map shows how people in the United States identify their ancestry or family origin, use it to explore the many ways This is what America is all about. Okay? By the way, this proves my theory of the more you go out west or the more you go south, you're Mexican. And the more you go to the, I mean, it's all going to be English, but the more you come closer to New York, you're Italian. You're either Italian or Mexican. It's ironic that those who claim ownership over being American always are fundamentally at odds with the most American concept, which is cherishing diversity. Like, America does not exist without unlimited migration. Okay? That's what makes America what it is. That's what makes America diverse. That's what makes America different than other countries. That's what makes America unique to many other countries. Birthright is, ironically enough, one of those principles. Unlimited migration sounds insane. That's literally just America, though. Floyd Waffen, I know it sounds insane to you. Look around. That's what it is. I know it sounds insane to you because you think everyone around you have lived on this land for generations. That's not the case. How the do you think this country was formed? Look, even some of the Nazis have had to come to terms with this reality, which is why they say, oh, it's European migration that made America what it is. Even that's not true. America is an unbelievably diverse country as a consequence of both forced and also voluntary migration. Chattel slavery is another obvious, real dark chapter of American history. Foy Waffen. Just don't let the Jews poison them. Oh, God. What about the indigenous people who are already here? You forget about us tribes? I never do. I always bring it up. Okay? I always maintain that America was built on indigenous genocide and the enforcement of chattel slavery. Sometimes I don't immediately bring it up while I'm talking about other aspects that are redeemable about America, and everyone always yells at me and says, oh, well, in that 30-second clip, you didn't immediately bring this up. You didn't bring that up. Okay? I did. I talked about it 2 minutes ago.
Each time neighbors link arms with neighbors without asking how long they have lived here or what papers they have, as ICE invades our neighborhoods. We see America each time those young and old stand in the beating rain or the stifling heat to cast their ballots. We see America each time working people demand more, not just for themselves, but for their fellow Americans. There are some who respond to those who ask for more from America with a simple refrain. Love it or leave it, they say. But patriotism has never been about pretending our nation is without flaws. Patriotism is every act of righteous dissent. It is every march led under the heavy sun. It is every protest held a decade before its time. It is precisely because we love this nation that we will not leave it. After all, who loves America more than those who have sacrificed so much to make it free? Today, I think not only of the 4th of July, I think too of the 9th of July. 5 days after the Declaration of Independence was signed, it arrived here in our New York City. Redcoats had disembarked on Staten Island. More than 100 British ships loomed just offshore. Across this city, the Continental Army prepared for an invasion. George Washington commanded his brigades to assemble just a few feet from this building. It was known then as the Commons. Today, we call it City Hall Park. There, within range of British guns, Washington ordered his generals to read the Declaration aloud. And with the world's mightiest empire poised to attack, Washington told the people of New York City what we will celebrate tomorrow. That we had declared our independence, that freedom was...
Interesting speech, right? Leftism and patriotism kind of new to see. No, it's not new. This is a time-honored tradition. People have always done this. I mean, it's what I do as well from time to time. Like I criticize America for all of its lost promises or the dark chapters of its history that it chooses to hide. It chooses not to recognize, or the racial wounds that still remain. These are all very real aspects of America. It's a part of the complex tapestry that America is. Having said that, however, there are plenty of redeemable qualities of America as well. Plenty of great qualities of America. Okay? A working court system that no longer is working as intended, obviously. Due process, free speech, and most importantly, how diverse this country is, and the people that make the people that make America what it is. Okay,
within reach. That evening, danger loomed. Conflict was not a question, but a certainty. And yet, when those early New Yorkers marched toward the statue of King George III that stood in the Bowling Green, a statue they would melt down into bullets for their young army, they walked in unison, grounded not in the pursuit of plunder, but in ideals that for the first time had a name: America. Those ideals upon which our nation was built, they are strong enough to endure any authoritarian regime, but only if we reach for them. Ours is a nation working each day towards the perfection in which it was conceived, a nation striving each day to better itself. Therein lies the work of America: the striving, the bettering, the reaching towards perfection. What a privilege each of us has to live in a nation that every one of its inhabitants can shape. What a responsibility each of us possesses to prove ourselves worthy of all those who came before. What power each of us holds to bring America ever closer to the greatness so many have seen when they looked upon these shores, the greatness that for 250 years has been America. Thank you. God bless America. God bless New York City. And happy 4th of July.
All right, great speech. Aura. Of course, people are very frustrated. Fox News is immediately spent most of the morning shitting on it. Kaylee, on Mamdani's speech, we need more Fettermans and fewer Mamdanis. It makes me angry.
That it's the constituents, the public that has to remind our elected officials to be proud of your state and proud of your country, regardless of which party is in charge.
That's right. And
this is also part of the reason why I get very frustrated, right? Whenever people say, Hasan, all you say is America bad. All you say is America bad. Hasan, you hate America. Because the idea of loving America has been totally held hostage by some of the worst figures that unironically destroy America with regular frequency, whether it be the Republican Party, whether it be Donald Trump, whether it be the parasitic capital owner class. Okay? America, the entity, has not served Americans, okay? The American people. I care about the American people. I care about the working class. America, the nation state, is defined entirely by who it is, by the people that are inside of it, okay? I fight for the American people. I fight for Americans. I fight for the working class in general. I don't fight for America, the entity, especially if America, the entity, does not serve the interests of its people. And it clearly does not. It's insane that those who have literally ruined this country, ruined the conditions for its people, are the ones who also get to have ownership over what it means to love America. And they traffic in this reactionary sentiment over and over again. Oh, you're not a real American. You didn't come here. You weren't born here 4 generations ago, 5 generations ago. Or sometimes they say, even the likes of Donald Trump, who was born on U.S. soil, but is only 2 generations removed from not being on U.S. soil, can claim to have more ownership over patriotism and what it means to be American than the likes of AOC, whose family has been in the United States of America for 8 generations. I want this country to be a country that we can be proud of. I want this country to no longer tamper with the potential of others. I want this country to no longer be a nation state that is enforcing its wishes upon the masses, that's harming the other countries in the periphery. I want this country to be one that we can be proud of. We have unlimited potential here. We have unlimited potential in the United States of America. But it's very difficult to get that message across to those who believe there's only one type of patriotism, who believe that there's only one way to love America, and that's by leaning into some of its worst qualities, by denying its historical wrongs, by refusing to right its historical wrongs. That's not patriotism. It's just like low IQ behavior.
we need more John Fettermans calling out this socialism and fewer Mamdanis in elected office. That's the first time I had seen those comments when you played them, Emily. And it makes me angry. It makes me angry to see someone who took advantage of the American dream, who's a recipient of it. Mamdani and his family came to this country and
That's literally his speech. His speech was about that. His speech was about the promise of America and the dreams that every immigrant has when they come here.
he is now mayor of the greatest city in our country, the biggest, the beacon of freedom. We have the Statue of Liberty right behind us. And the fact that the mayor of this city, where the statue...
Like, John Fetterman is a patriot, just not for America. He's a patriot for Israel. Of course you would want more patriotic people, patriotic for the nation state of Israel, that will place the interests of the state of Israel over the interests of America and Americans.
of liberty stands, fails to understand liberty, fails to understand that this is a beacon of freedom, that when the world didn't have a place where you could celebrate being free from an autocrat or a king, the great founders of our country came together and in this grand experiment created the greatest, this is on the National Mall, Emily. I'm sorry to interrupt what I was saying, but they wanted us to point this out. And while we're talking about the National Mall, perfect segue here, on the National Mall is the America 250 marketplace, where you have all of these different states who have come together, 11 of whom decided not to celebrate. 10 of those are Democratic states. But when I say we need more Fettermans and...
Oh my God, tying it back to tying it back to privately owned America 250 celebrations. Disgusting.
I'm thinking about the fact that, you know, the United States rose up against oppressive taxation from the English.
Yeah, there was a second part of that, don't you think? What was it? It wasn't taxes. It was taxation without representation. It wasn't no taxation. You idiot. That's awesome.
And oppressive taxation is forcing a lot of New Yorkers to leave New York right now. And it's coming from the leadership in New York.
Oh, my God.
Not from someone across the sea or a king.
No, you hate that there is more representation. That's what you hate. That's the problem. For the longest time, dude, clip shipping the Constitution? Yes. For the longest time, these guys have demanded no representation whatsoever, right? Taxes come in, they go to subsidies, they go to corporations, they get tax breaks, they don't even pay the taxes, those super wealthy. And this is the design of the system. It's great. No changes necessary. Okay. Now you got a movement that says, actually, the super wealthy, the super fortunate should give back more, just as the average American does. And also on top of that, we should actually have a more democratic control over where these taxes are going to begin with. That's what you hate. You hate democracy. You hate the representation. You are the colonial British in this point, in this analogy. And you're mad that the people are rising up. What Kami says, thank you for the 20 gifted subs.
It's coming from right here, where people feel that they're being struggled out of the ability to have a business, to run a company, to pay their rent and all of it. So thank you.
Here's Kellyanne Conway. God, they're all chirping. It's so awesome.
And they don't really get a lot of power here in Washington. They're gaining power now. But I think that negative Nellies sell, negativity sells in small bites. It doesn't sell to an optimistic, patriotic America. We tend to elect people, particularly for president, who we see as more optimistic and just more joyful. There's been 2 exceptions to that since 1960. And I just don't think it's going to sell. Also, they don't really
live up.
Jesse Waters.
To the hype. This guy built this thing up like this was the State of the Union on July 4th. And he bombed. I mean, this thing was so boring, so tedious. And then, like you said, the lighting was dark.
Yep.
There was no color. You had immigrants standing around them like this, like
With a tiny little flag.
it's like, oh my God, you could have been
Yeah, it's boring and lame, dude. Boring and lame.
so much better because the guy's talented. He has a decent personality, but this thing did not deliver. I felt nothing.
Yep.
You know, at least when other politicians talk, I feel hate, I feel happiness, I felt empty inside. Maybe it's because he's so young and has literally done nothing before with his life that didn't feel like there was anything behind it. Kind of felt like he was the first Muslim mayor of New York reading a speech written for the first black president. He was trying to be Barack Obama. But Barack Obama, you know, he'd say that stuff was wrong with the country, but then he'd bring you up and then take you higher. This guy brought you here and then took you down. Aesthetically, you're looking at a guy with a beard sitting still like this, surrounded by immigrants, and he's saying, you're racist and we're coming for you. That's how a lot of America saw that speech. So I got to say something, Mamdani. Calm down, Mamdani, all right? Relax. No one's afraid of you. We don't like communism. And
There's nothing. There is nothing about the actual, like, no mention of any of the things that he mentioned in the speech itself.